Michigan's gem, the Muskegon River watershed. In the heart of lower Michigan, a great river is born, the Muskegon River, second longest river in Michigan. She and her tributaries, like life-sustaining arteries, flow through the forests, prairies, farmland, suburbs, and cities of central and western lower Michigan. On June 8, 2011, an eclectic group of 14 intrepid voyagers embarked on a journey down the entire length of Muskegon River.
The Voyage of Discovery, June of 2011, was a paddle the entire length of the Muskegon River, starting at Houghton Lake's control structure and all the way down to Muskegon Lake. We had 11 days of paddle, 10 nights camping. It was a great trip, about 211 miles.
Got the idea from the folks that do the same sort of a trip on the Grand River, and I guess they do it every 10 years, and when I learned about that, I thought we ought to do the same thing on the Muskegon River, so I sent an email off to the Watershed Assembly, and they thought that was a good idea too. So a number of us got together and started planning in October of 2010, and got it all arranged and made our trip.
Well, I think it was a challenge for me. I always felt kinship when I went north and crossed the Muskegon River up by Houghton Lake, and that water goes by my house. I always wanted to learn more about the upper section, and we did. It was learning more about the river and the challenge of making that entire trip. Well, one thing I think I learned was the water temperature. I didn't realize that the upper section, which is quite flat, was quite warm, the water temperature. And it wasn't until we got down here below Croton Dam did we get the colder weather, and that's why we have more trout here, and a scarcity of trout, I think, up in the upper section.
We compiled our growing collection of discoveries. We witnessed alternately cold and warm tributaries, attesting to the warming effect of over 90 dams remaining in the watershed.
The Muskegon River is a warm and a cold water system. It's cold down here, so to speak, and it's warm above Croton Dam.
One of the issues that we face is what we call thermal pollution. That's a pollutant concern. That's the warming of the water, and human influence or human impacts on the watershed or human activities tend to have a warming influence on the river system. And so if we're going to maintain a cool water status and preserve that unique attribute of the Muskegon River, we as an organization and as a watershed community, we need to do everything we can to help maintain and keep that cool water status.
What we did discover was on the upper part, from M55 down to about the little town of Leota, didn't see a single pop can, beer can, plastic, nothing. It was completely pristine. We could have been somewhere way up in Canada. And another thing that discovered was from Leota down to about Everett, there is a whole series of artesian wells that people have cottages, old cottages there, and many of them have a pipe coming out of the ground in front of the cottage and out over the river, and artesian water, artesian wells pouring right into the river. There was a couple of folks on the trip, father and son, who did a lot of sampling along the river of the invertebrates, the little bugs that live under the rocks and logs, and they'd pull them up and they'd sort them out, put them in the proper places and count them, and some bugs are more tolerant than others of warm water or bad water, and that way you can make a judgment on what the quality of the water is. So that's also something that you can learn to do through the Muskegon River Watershed Assembly.
If you live along the river, you should be concerned about your river bank. They sponsored, last year I attended what they called a shorescaping, like landscaping, but it was shorescaping. And it was a seminar, and I learned a few things, and I've changed some of my river frontage.
We are doing some workshops, natural shoreline workshops, because we're trying to change people's attitudes about what looks nice. And right now people think mowing to the water's edge looks so beautiful, but it's not beautiful for the water. Leaving a strip of natural shoreline, or a buffer is what we call it, will help erosion in the rivers or lakes.
Well, if you become a member, you can learn ways to protect your riverfront from erosion, and ways to, as I said, sample the invertebrates that live in the river to make a judgment on the quality of the water in the river. As John had mentioned earlier, they have seminars that the Watershed Assembly sponsors, where you can learn about how to protect your waterfront. You can learn about invasive species. You can learn about the sampling that can be done to make a determination on the quality of the water. We may do some trips in the future, and I think we may focus on some of the tributaries to the Muskegon River. This year, we did the Cut River, which flows between Higgins Lake and Houghton Lake, and next year we may do the Little Muskegon River, somewhere starting up around Canadian Lakes in that area, and go down to this area right here, Croton, where the Muskegon River flows, the Little Muskegon flows into the Big Muskegon.
The Watershed Assembly is more like a protector or a guardian of the Muskegon River. I'd feel somewhat concerned if we didn't have an organization like the Watershed Assembly.
And all of who participated agreed that this was only the beginning. There will be more voyages of discovery in the future.